Welcome to Window to China Cable TV. Today I have Dr. Clarence Lam on the show. Dr. Lam is the second Chinese American served as Maryland House of Delegate for the 12th District. Can you introduce yourself?
Hi, my name is Dr. Clarence Lam. I am a newly elected state delegate to the Maryland General Assembly representing the 12th District, which includes parts of Howard and Baltimore counties. And it's really a pleasure to be here to speak with all of you, to introduce myself and also to speak a little bit about my background, what's brought me to the legislature, some of my interests and some of my goals for what I hope to accomplish as part of the Maryland General Assembly. And so it's really a pleasure to be here to answer some questions and also to talk a little bit about some of the experience that I've had today.
Welcome to you. Can you tell us a little bit your professional life? What do you do for the living?
Great. So I'm a physician at Johns Hopkins at the Bloomberg School of Public Health, and I specialize in preventive medicine. Preventive medicine includes areas like exercise, wellness, nutrition, things that you can do to help keep patients healthy so they can avoid costly surgery, procedures, and drugs later on. And so I run a residency program at Johns Hopkins, which is what they do after medical school to train in a particular area of specialty. And so I train about 20 physicians each year in the specialty of preventive medicine, and they'll go on to do a lot of population health or public health work at different federal, state, local agencies, and also in private sector companies. So we look at healthcare from the 30,000 foot level and how we can improve a community's health, whether that's reducing obesity in the community, cutting down smoking in schools, making the environment more walkable so people can get the exercise they want to be able to get. But there's a lot that you can do to help improve a community's health beyond the walls of the clinic and the hospital. And that's a lot of what we as physicians, as preventive medicine physicians, focus on.
Doctor is your career. So can I ask you, what do you think health care? So some states still refuse to get the health care for the people. What do you think? What's your point?
So I think, as a basic point, I think healthcare is a human right for everyone. There are a lot of conditions and diseases that take place that people don't have control over. They might be born with it, or they might have been exposed to a disease, and it's not something that they had control over. And we know how important health is to everyone, and making sure that they are able to hold down a job, are able to keep their family, healthy themselves, are able to further their education, are able to contribute back to the community. And so it's important that people have good health. And so I think it's important for healthcare to be provided to everyone that needs it. And so we've seen over the last few years a lot of changes take place in the healthcare system to bring, to make sure that everyone who needs health insurance is able to access healthcare. And so I support a lot of these changes. I think it's going to be an overall positive benefit for our communities and our country. I think the Affordable Care Act is taking a good first step to ensuring that everyone who needs care is able to get care. And so I'm looking forward to being able to work here in Maryland with my colleagues in the legislature to further expand services and programs to people who really need it and ensure health care is available to our local communities.
Except for your professions, I know based on the online, you have very rich experience in public service.
Sure, I'd be happy to. I've been active here in the community. I serve on a few community boards and commissions. Locally here in Howard County in Maryland, I serve on the board of the Community Action Council, which is an organization that provides housing assistance, energy assistance, and runs the county's food bank and Head Start programs. So these are really essential services for people who are not as well off, but need programs and help to be able to further their education, to be able to continue to give back to the community. I also serve on the board of Healthy Howard, which expands wellness programs and healthcare programs throughout our region to make sure that people can register for healthcare, and also make sure that workplaces and schools and restaurants provide healthy food options. And then I also serve on the board of United Community Connections, which makes sure that we have services and programs for people who have developmental disabilities, whether that's cerebral palsy or other congenital conditions. It's important that they have essential programs and services, and so that organization is one that I serve on that makes sure that those are available to people who are in need. And then I also serve on have just come off the Governor's Commission for Asian American Affairs, where we were looking to help expand outreach to the Asian American community, both in business and in community development. And that's been a very productive few years where I was happy to contribute back to the Asian American community. And then politically, I've done quite a bit of work as well. Most recently as the Director of Asian American Outreach for the Maryland Democratic Party. I was the co-executive director of the Asian American Leadership Council, where we did a lot of outreach to Asian American voters to make sure that they got out to vote and were informed about the issues and the candidates that were there as part of the election process. So I wear a few hats in addition to the medical one, but mostly in the direction of giving back to the community.
Congratulations for your successful election. So I'm just curious, why did you decide to running for this position? Do you have any particular issues in your community you really care about?
I think there are a few issues that I really care about. I think there are a few reasons that I also ran for elected office. As the first one, as a physician, a lot of what I do is helping to care for the community and making sure that we have good health care for them, that we care about. We treat conditions that have regimens available for them, that we make sure that people stay well and healthy so that they don't have to utilize healthcare services later on. And there's a recognition that there's a lot that you could do to help improve a community's health beyond the walls of the clinic and the hospital. And so a lot of the activities that I've done tries to gear towards that. So for example, by reducing smoking in schools, you can make sure that they don't encounter more serious healthcare conditions later on, like lung cancer or obstructive pulmonary disorder. But a lot of that starts from addressing things early and getting there with public health measures. So, for example, cutting down smoking in schools or in restaurants, making sure that vending machines have healthier options. We see a lot of junk food in vending machines, but there's a lot of things that can be done to provide more healthier options, and that helps with people for diabetes or heart disease later on. So, it was a recognition of wanting to expand healthcare programs and services here in the community, but also from my background, I wanted to give back to the community because my parents moved here from Taiwan and from Hong Kong, and I was born and raised here in Pennsylvania, but I saw a lot of the struggles that they went through in raising myself and my two younger brothers, and whether that's finding a stable job, providing for good education, making sure that we have programs like soccer and school and music lessons that we could go to, and my parents struggled through that. But they also faced many challenges themselves as new immigrants here to our communities. People would sometimes look at them differently because of the way they look or because of the way they talk. And, I saw that, but also recognize that our community here in the United States has provided a lot of opportunities to my parents. And so I felt like as a new generation of Asian American growing up here, that I had an obligation to continue to give back to the community, and this was one way to be able to serve and help others in the community as well. So that's why, for a variety of reasons, I decided to run.
Thank you for bringing up your Asian background or your family impact. We're going to take a 1-minute break. I will be right back with you.
Okay.
everyone with alcohol and drug addiction is in the same boat. With treatment, you can find solid ground. For drug and alcohol information and treatment referral for you or someone you know, call 1-800-662-HELP.
Dude, are you sure you want this tattoo? Because just do it.
Some mistakes in life are permanent. Like hearing loss. To learn how to protect your hearing, visit asha.org.
You've probably heard about heart disease, but did you know that it's the #1 killer of women nationwide? Heart disease claims more lives each year than breast cancer, lung cancer, or strokes combined. But there are steps you can take to protect yourself against it. For more information on how you can prevent heart disease, contact your local American Heart Association or visit their website at www.americanheart.org.
Dr. Lam, we are back now. So thank you for bringing up your family influence. From your observation, what do you think is the Asian American people's dream, American dream?
I think the American dream for a lot of Asian Americans is similar to what brought a lot of immigrants here to the United States. I think we enjoy opportunities, whether that's in business or in education or in raising our families. I think we bring particular values that we hold near and dear to us as Asian Americans, and the opportunities that are available here in the country really let us be able to flourish and make the best out of those opportunities. And so, the values that I think Asian Americans hold dear are, in particular with education, wanting to make sure that we provide good foundation education in K through 12, but then also make sure that there's good higher education opportunities at different colleges and universities, making sure that education remains affordable. And then we want to make sure that we have good job security and good paying jobs here in the US. And we're lucky that there are so many different types of opportunities for job growth, for job development. And oftentimes, that's not the case from a lot of the regions of the world that people might come from. So we're really lucky here to be able to have, the freedoms that we have here in the US, whether it's freedom of religion, freedom of speech, freedom to read and say things that we choose to do, but also to make our own choices when it comes to education, when it comes to jobs, when it comes to personal beliefs that we hold near and dear to ourselves. That's just something that's not a freedom that everyone in the world has, and we're really privileged to have that opportunity here.
American, first Asian Chinese American delegate, or first Korean American delegate. How do you think that's identification? Why? I mean, what does that mean?
Mm-hmm. I think it's a recognition that our community is maturing. And I think speaking to my colleagues who are in the Maryland General Assembly, whether it's the first Asian or the first Filipino or the first Indian American, or my colleague who's the first Chinese American elected to the Maryland General Assembly, I think we wear it as, a bit of a sense of pride, because it recognizes that, there's, a recognition amongst the broader community that we are really maturing as a demographic group. And so, I think we are very happy to continue to give back to our community. We understand the responsibilities that come with representing an underrepresented minority group. And so we do our best to reach out to different organizations, different mediums, different regions that may be outside of our district. They may be people that can't vote for us. They may be people that are outside of our community. But we recognize that it's important to reach out to Asian Americans and the different ethnic groups, whether they're Koreans, Chinese, Filipino, Vietnamese, Thai, even those that are outside our district, because we are so underrepresented. And so for members of our communities to see a familiar face in Annapolis in the Maryland General Assembly is incredibly valuable. And that's why we continue to do a lot of outreach, as I'm doing on this program, to audiences that may be outside of our immediate district, but are feeling underrepresented regardless. And that's what we're here to do, to help serve them, because we view our constituents as broader than our immediate district, that we know that a lot of people throughout our state and the region will turn to us for help because we look like a familiar face to them, and we're happy to serve.
I cannot imagine the moment you sworn in. How do you feel when that moment's coming out?
That moment was a lot of fun, and it was a lot of mixed emotions, all of them positive, but it was a recognition that the process was a long campaign. I campaigned for 2 years, beginning in January of 2013, and had my successful election in November of 2014, and was finally sworn in, as you mentioned, in January of 2015, so a full 2 years from when I launched my campaign. And so, the emotions range from being relieved, just knowing that the campaign is over and you're moving on to the next step, to joy and elation, recognizing that all of the work that you had put into the campaign had paid off, to a little bit of excitement and anxiety because you're looking at being able to do a lot of different things afterwards. The campaign is very focused on trying to reach out to voters and to get them to vote for you, but you realize when you turn the page and enter a new chapter of governing, of serving in the legislature, it's a lot different than campaigning. And that in itself leads to some challenges, but you're excited to be able to meet those challenges and build new relationships, help out our communities in different ways. So it's a mix of emotions, but it was really a memorable day, one that I will remember for the rest of my life. It was great to have family and friends around, to be able to celebrate together. Really what was a landmark and momentous occasion in my life, and hopefully one that will open up many opportunities to come to serve our community.
You are new in the Maryland General Assembly. How is the life like? Do you have get into touch any legislature yet?
Yeah, absolutely. I've drafted a few bills even in the short time that I've been in the legislature, and in this last legislative session just had one pass.
Wow.
As a physician, healthcare is obviously near and dear to me, and I drafted a bill that would make it easier to screen people for HIV and AIDS, which is a disease that has a long history and a very politicized history. And but we've really, in the last 10 years or so, turned a corner when it comes to treating HIV. In the past, HIV used to be viewed as a death sentence in a way because there was no cure. But because of advances in drugs and in treatment, we really have some remarkable options available for people who have HIV to be able to get treatment to make it more of a chronic disease. So it's something that they can live with and manage on appropriate medications, and it's not the death sentence that it was. And so it's important to screen people early, and the bill that I passed in the winter will help make sure that it's easier for physicians to be able to test people for HIV, because we know that if you're able to catch HIV earlier, it becomes much more treatable and easier to treat and with better outcomes. And so, that's an issue that I'm glad to be able to have help support and work through the legislature to see through its passage. I hope it's the first of many bills that we will see success on over the next few years and potentially in future terms as well. So, that's a good first step. And at this point, we are continuing to work on other bills for next session. But do encourage people in the community, if you have concerns or issues that you're aware of, feel free to reach out to us, because it's hard for us to draft bills or to address problems if we don't know what those problems are. And as much as we get out in the community, we still rely on regular people and constituents like yourself to let us know what your concerns are, so that we can draft bills to improve how programs and services are run in the state and help our communities. So a lot of things and a lot of exciting pieces of legislation, I think, yet to come.
Particular for HID, so can you get any government funding for support that bill?
So that bill actually doesn't need any government funding. Funding is always very challenging because budgets everywhere, particularly on the state level, are very tight. And so the best bills, the easiest bills to pass are ones that don't require additional funding. And this one was a bill that doesn't require funding to help improve testing in our communities. So there were a lot of obstacles that were put in place that actually weren't funding problems. And so it wasn't funding that was holding back people from getting tested. It was more paperwork and procedural obstacles that prevented people from getting tested. Traditionally, the insurance companies will pay for HIV tests. And so, the payment part of it wasn't a concern, but it was more of the paperwork and the procedures that physicians had to go through to get people tested that made it more challenging to get more people tested. So fortunately, this one didn't require additional funding.
Yeah, I know. As a state delegate, probably budget is fixed. A lot of things you have to handle now. Also, I want to highlight your Asian background, because I know it's a long way for you get here, be very successful. I mean, how did you encourage Asian American people to register to vote for you?
Yeah, I got Asian Americans involved in the election process because I thought it was important for them to have a voice in legislation and in programs that are being implemented. We know that if we don't have representation in the room or a seat at the table, that our voices are not heard. And programs and services that could benefit our community aren't implemented, or people don't think of them. And I think our diversity, it has always been our strength, but for our diversity to be heard, it's important that we have good representation. And so, it was something that I viewed as important for our community to get involved in the electoral process. And I've always viewed it as kind of a three-step process. One, encouraging Asian Americans to register to vote, because that's the first step. If you're not registered, you're not actually able to vote in any of the upcoming elections. And then to also vote in the, first step is to register to vote. Second part is to register for a political party, whatever party you want that to be. If you want to be a Democrat, or if you want to be a Republican or another party, I think it's important to register for a party because of the way our election system is set up. There's a primary election that takes place earlier in the year, and that's when a lot of the decisions are made. But you can only vote in the primary if you're registered for a political party. And so, to have your voice heard in that first step, you have to register for the party. So that's an important thing to remember. And then finally, to make sure to register to get out to vote. A lot of people forget about all the elections that are taking place, and I think every single election is important. The primary will take place early in the year, sometimes in April, sometimes in June, and a lot of people don't think about that election. But that, again, is a screening process. It's a weaning process. So if you're a candidate, you're not able to make it past that election, you're not going to make it to the general election in November, which is when most people think about going to vote, because they always think of November, that first Tuesday is election day. And it is, but a lot of the decisions are made earlier already. And so it's a three-step process. One, registering to vote. Two, registering for a particular party, whatever one that may be. And then three, making sure that you actually get out to vote both in the primary election and in the general election. And so that's two separate times of the year. So when I go out to Asian American groups, I make sure to emphasize these points because it's a very different system than what a lot of people are accustomed to. And we haven't had many people actually take the time to explain them these different steps and why each step is important. But I think it's important for us, if we want to continue to have a voice in our government, to take part in the voting process, because elected officials, whether it's on the state, local, or even on the federal level, if they know that Asian Americans don't vote, they won't really listen to them. So we have to make sure that our voice is heard, and that's by voting. And that way people will actually listen up to some of our concerns.
Yeah, I think things are starting to change. Now Asian American people get more and more involved in the political exercise, process. Thank you for your advice. I'm really happy having you today. So we're going to wrap up. We'll see you next time. Thank you for watching.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure to be a part of the program.
Bye-bye.
Hello, ni hao. Welcome to Window to China. Come and join us as we explore China's people and their culture. We will go to many places in China, from the Himalayan mountains in Tibet to the Yangtze and Yellow River gorges, all the way to the modern cities of Shanghai and Guangzhou on the coast. We will visit wild areas, small villages, historic temples, and the crowds in big cities with millions of people. China is a big country with many cultures to visit and learn about. You can visit us at www.warnerinternationalinc.org to tell us what you think about our show and find out where we will be visiting the next time. We have so much to see, so come with me and look into another window to China.